Hi, and welcome to The Expeditionist. I'm Ralph Iantosa. I consider myself a travel veteran, having been in the industry since 1990. I want to share some really great conversations with some of my travel partners who I just adore. I want to show you a much different way to travel, enjoying local cultures, wildlife, conservation, and sustainability. I want to give you access to a whole new world just waiting for you to have us help you explore.
You were talking about places to go where you don't
Not
see
crowds,
not
yeah.
crowds. Yeah.
So uncrowded. Uncrowded is really something that's important to me. Like
Mhm.
Africa, for example. One of my favorite trips where I had been surrounded by Nat Hab vehicles was in Manipul's.
Oh yeah.
I loved that so
Hmm.
much. And I hadn't been familiar with your safari. And so we were on the river, taking a break, having lunch.
Uh-huh.
And there was wild dogs. We followed the wild dogs all morning hunting.
Lots of wild dogs
Yeah,
there.
it was
Yeah.
really, really cool. So here comes your two Jeeps
Hmm.
full of your group that had popped in. And I went and I talked to everybody one by one in
Nice.
your trip. Yeah,
Oh, good.
I really had to ask them because I had done my own trip through one
Uh-huh.
of our friends that we
Yeah.
both, yeah.
Was
And
that James?
mhm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so I had done this great trip, and my clients were having an absolute blast. And the
Hmm.
camp that we stayed at, I mean, the elephants were kind of coming up next to our tent
Yeah.
and eating the leaves, and like the side of my tent
Yeah.
pushed all the way in because she backed up against it just to try
Yeah.
and get the branch, and everybody was laughing and having fun. And then I see your crowd pull up, and everybody had the same response. They were so overwhelmed with joy, and
Yeah.
anticipation of the unexpected was like the best way to describe the whole trip for
Yeah.
them. Yeah, it was spectacular.
That's really interesting to hear because I often forget that I have my I guess my spiel of conservation travel and of course we do a good job and we bring joy. But one thing that I've thought of lately is I will hear other suppliers who have been out in the with their company.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say competitors because we really don't have
No.
competition, but they always say when they encounter a Nat Hab group out in the bush, whether it's Africa, whether it's in
Mm-hmm.
the Pantanal of Brazil to see
Mm-hmm.
jaguars or wherever it is, they say the same thing. They say that it's a vehicle or two full of joy,
Mm-hmm.
completely filled to the brim with joy, joyful
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right.
And even in the Galapagos, I remember coming back and a lady came up to me and said, "Were you on that little 16 passenger catamaran?"
Oh, the Letty.
Yeah, the Letty. It was back when we had the Letty.
Yeah.
And she said, everywhere we saw you guys, you were laughing and there were only 8 of you in a group and an expedition leader, and we were 16. So it's really good to hear that you had that experience in
Always.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I'm intrigued with. Like, I think I want to make sure the listeners know, like, what sucked me in, the first thing you offered me to take a look at was something I would never have considered or thought about ever. And I really loved that. That was really epic for someone, being in the travel industry. How many people come to us all day long wanting us to represent them, put our clients on their trips,
Mm-hmm.
and and to go to Mexico to see the migration of the monarch. Recently, 60 Minutes
Yes.
had a really nice article, and I
Mm-hmm.
was really happy to see so much
Yeah.
coverage on that, which I thought
Anderson
was great.
Cooper did a great
He did a
job.
spectacular job,
Yeah.
yeah. But like to go see the migration of the monarch, it's just right down the road,
Mhm.
off you go. It's so easy. So
It,
it seems like these trips are very close,
yeah, some of them can be, some of them are a little more far flung. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
our longest trip and our probably furthest away from our office would be our 24-day trip that's Ultimate Australia, which includes,
I'm drooling on that.
yeah, it
Kangaroo
includes
Island.
Kangaroo Island in Tasmania and the
Yeah.
Great Ocean Roadway, and then working our way up through the Great Barrier Reef and Kakadu National Park and even the Kimberley. So
Yeah.
you've got all of these areas that, unless you're doing a cruise, you would be hard pressed. And by not doing a cruise and doing a land-based tour, you really are getting more of a feel,
Yeah.
a more immersive. I would say transformational and immersive travel are what we're really known for.
So let's talk about your transformation. So what have been like maybe the top two most, I know you probably hate that question, but like if you could pick two, what were the two most meaningful, impactful trips that you've done in your
Okay.
company, going to explore, checking things out?
Can I take three?
Yes.
I'll say Botswana just because I had been to Africa before, but I had never seen a cleaner, more hospitable country and great weather. You didn't have to get a lot of shots, and every turn was something new. So that
It's
will forever
peaceful.
be stamped in my mind,
Yeah.
even though you could say that about a lot of different places in Africa.
Sure.
So we'll just kind of park that as meaningful. Now the other two would be snow leopards of northern India and Greenland. Very different because Greenland is not known for a lot of megafauna. You're not going to see bears, and you're going to see shorebirds, whales, and maybe some Arctic foxes scurrying around. But what you are going to see is you're going to be in a test tube of climate change. You are literally going to be looking at chunks of ice that have broken away from, a calving glacier that are the size of any building here in downtown Boulder.
Wow.
Or larger.
Mhm.
And when they rock back and forth in the fjord that they're floating down, and they rip in half, it makes the sound of a sonic boom. And you look up because you think there's thunder or an aircraft is flying by, and yet
It's just separating.
it's just ice ripping apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then to take a chunk of that ice, a small chunk, and bring it into your Zodiac and take it back to camp and set it on the bar and rinse it off so that it's not got the salt taste.
Right.
And you take a ice pick and you put it in a glass, and I don't care whether it's water, whiskey, or wine.
Yeah.
Those bubbles will emerge once liquid hits it that have been compressed bubbles in a glacier that has then come to your table. So talk about an experience that replicates what you were doing when you were out cruising the Jan Pedersen Fjord or the Sermilik Fjord in eastern Greenland, and just looking at blue skies. We affectionately call it the Arctic Riviera because eastern Greenland is known to have better weather, a little warmer and a lot drier than western Greenland.
Where do you fly into?
We fly into Reykjavik, and then we take a fixed wing flight to a little landing strip called Kulasuk, which is an old NATO landing strip.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we take a helicopter. So just the dramatic approach and flying over all that. It's really beautiful. Now, counter that with snow leopards, which is clearly one of the most elusive creatures in the world. I mean, there's been movies made about getting that iconic picture of a snow leopard. And we did see snow leopards, but in valleys that were replete with, blooming apricot blossoms in the spring, and the rich history, the path that Buddha himself was on, the Zanskar River and the Indus River, that in the valleys of those river are mountains that, it's not the Himalaya, it's the ridge after the Himalaya. So the Himalaya takes all of the moisture and leaves these kind of arid. Dry. So snow leopards, despite their name, are they kind of like that dry, rocky? That's what their coats.
Do they look? I've seen pictures of them, but could you compare them to, like, say, our big cats in the Rockies?
No, their tails are remarkably long. Despite their name of being a snow leopard, taxonomically, I'm not sure of that. I'm not a scientist, but they're actually a segment or a cousin or a relative of a tiger, not a leopard.
Wow.
So they have that long tail for balance, but they're amazing. And we saw one just kind of walking along the horizon, a solitary male. And then 2 days later, we saw a female with 2 kittens chomping on the carcass of an ibex that she had taken down. But again, once we saw the snow leopards, my attention shifted to, the prayer flags and the Buddhism.
Is it like Bhutan?
Yeah, it is. Maybe not as many ornate
Yeah.
temples, but simple temples and
Beautiful.
simple monasteries.
So how did you get there?
So we started in Delhi, and then we fly into Leh, and we have 2 full days of acclimation. So we go to 8,000 feet. Is it? Yeah. I No, I think it's 10,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
This city of Leh, and we're told not to do anything strenuous so
Just
that we
relax.
acclimate.
Yeah.
Because we're starting,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit above sea level in Delhi, and then going all the way up there. So it's a dramatic
Mm-hmm.
altitude increase. And once we've done that, then we head along the Indus River or into the valleys where our snow leopard lodge is.
Mm-hmm.
And our snow leopard lodge is perfectly suited for simplicity but easy access. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to be, again, our luxury may not be in the thread count, but it's in the what counts. And the what counts to us is close proximity to wildlife and being in the natural habitat. So
do
getting
you
further
trek
apart.
on foot, or do you take
We
vehicles?
take vehicles, and then we'll get out of the vehicles when spotters. So it's a whole complex
Mhm.
series of spotters and guides and drivers that are all involved
all
in this
hands on
process.
deck.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're in a vehicle with the driver, and there's one guy that switches between the vehicles, and he's communicating by radio with the spotters who may have found him. So spotters know where they were yesterday and where
Right.
they may be. It's not an exact science, but they've gotten it to the point where it's pretty predictable,
I love
and
that.
it works well.
Yeah, wow.
It works well.
Those are some really epic
Yeah.
trips. I think Botswana also is one of my favorites in the whole world.
It's
I've been
pretty
there.
special. Yeah.
I really love that very, very much.
I tell people, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No.
just say, if you think that you're only going to go to Africa one time, it's your one and done. You're
Mhm.
not going to see East Africa and then Southern Africa and then go to, maybe Madagascar or something. But if Africa is like, I'm just going to go one time, I always highly recommend Botswana.
I do too.
Because you're going to see the big five and more. You're going to
Mhm.
see wild dogs. You're going to see, hopefully, if you're, and you would be doing it right because you're working with us, you're going to see one of the 7 wonders of the world in that itinerary, and that's Victoria Falls.
And the Devil's Pool's fun.
And Devil's, yeah, exactly.
That's actually the picture on my podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I had a group that we were over there, a
Mhm.
different group in 2024, and I asked them all to come use the water was so low, and I always had wanted to put my reach over, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted to go with me, so I did it anyways. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, I love
That's
it.
great.
I think Botswana is just very special. I love how vast it is. I
Mhm.
love there's no crowds. I love everything about their concept of a country, of how they
Yeah.
don't need us and we don't leave a mark.
It's really
Mhm.
it's
What other
incredible.
countries are like that you work with that would be like a Botswana, that where you'll never leave a mark when you were there if they ever leave?
I was pretty impressed with our low footprint in the Pantanal, Brazil,
Mm.
and that has to be up there in the top 5 as well.
I was just there in May
Yeah,
or in April
yeah.
last year.
Did you go to the southern Pantanal as
I
well?
did, yeah. And we had a conversation with the people about you.
Oh,
and,
did you?
And I went by your proproperty.
Cayman?
Yeah. I stayed at Cayman, but I
Did
also
you?
went by your other property.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought it was just really special. And
Mhm.
I liked learning about the jaguars. I'd always wanted to do that, and we always seemed to be going to Africa, and it was just time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to just having the splendors of not just seeing the jaguars, again, it's a little bit like the snow leopard trip. You see them, and then you see them again and again and again, and then your eyes and your other senses open up to what else is out there. Some of the
Mhm.
remarkable birds.
Yeah.
The hyacinth macaw, the largest macaw in the world, with
They're
just
beautiful.
gorgeous,
Oh wow!
and
when
the
they
giant
fly,
anteaters
Yeah.
and river otters,
and
which
was
look
it
like
capybara?
harbor seals. Capybara, yeah.
I never thought I had never really paid attention to that. And
Yeah. Who thought you'd get excited over a rodent?
I know
A large rodent.
Yeah, it's really funny too. Is like in our room at the lodge, when we arrived, there was a huge tarantula, And
Oh
oh my God, it
no.
was, and so I've been to South Texas a lot. My
Yeah.
clients have ranches down there and things. And so I've seen a lot of them, and they're harmless. They're not going to ever
Hmm.
hurt you. But if you know you're not from that world and you see one, the first thing is fear
Yeah.
and whatever. Yeah, and it was just really interesting to watch them. They were all
Yeah.
over the place, and they were
Yeah.
never going to harm us. It was really interesting to me.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really like all of this very much. So I'm scheduled to travel with a group. We're going to go this fall to see the polar bears, and you and I have talked
Hmm.
about this for a really long time.
Awesome.
And I don't know what to expect, right? So we're flying into Winnipeg. We're going to take the charter up to Churchill, and
Hmm.
then we're going to be out on the tundra with polar bears. So
Hmm.
you have talked me into doing this for years, and I finally made the time this year to go and
Yeah.
bring people with me. So what is that experience going to entail?
Let it be a surprise, but it's going to be clearly your first encounter with the polar bear is going to be magical. You're going to see how photogenic they are. You're going to see how charismatic they are, um, and recognize that as a keystone species that everything literally comes down from in the Arctic, at least that part of the Arctic, is remarkable. Um, and then, just like I said, with you know India and the Pantanal, the tundra is going to come alive. The tundra is going to be not just the place you're looking for polar bears, but the tundra is going to be a place that you marvel at with its colors. If it's in the fall and snow hasn't hit the ground yet, all this burnt, rusty color,
Nice.
and little ptarmigan rock and willow ptarmigan that look like fat little chickens with bloomers on
And they
their
haven't
legs.
changed colors yet.
And they haven't changed colors. They're changing from gray to white. Arctic foxes scurrying around, same thing. You might see them in shades of gray and then all white. Beautiful. Depending on it's also going to depend on if you're going in not early, but mid-October, right in the middle. So they're all great.
Nice.
You're gonna see bears. Now, whether you're gonna see 20 bears in one day or 5 bears, it doesn't matter, because you're gonna see bears. And
well, I've never paid attention to numbers. I feel like that's commodity on a trip is annoying.
Yeah.
I always am annoyed by that.
Yeah.
I just, whatever I see is what I see. Yeah, as it's supposed to be.
And we're not chasing them. We're driving around and we're looking for them. If we see a polar bear, we're going to stop the vehicle and we're going to shut down the engines, and we're going to have a scope, and we're going to have the windows all pulled down, and we have that back viewing deck. And with any luck, the bear will be curious and come towards us, but we're not going to go off road. We're not going to go anywhere where we could possibly change its normal behavior. If it wants to come our way and sniff us, put its paws up on the rover, I can't guarantee that, but that's always even if they get from where I am to the corner of the room 20 feet away, it's very special. Very cool. It's very cool.
We're excited.
And it's and then I'm going to be really curious to talk to you after you've done the night drive, because your trip will include one time where you're out on the evening and you have dinner out on the tundra.
Wow.
So there's not a lot. Yeah.
Know that we were going to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just, then you really get a sense of like, wow, who the First Nations Inuit that were bearing this harsh climate, as well as all of the critters, and together how they make this this tundra work for them.
I was kind of chuckling about the law that you're not allowed to lock your car.
True.
Yeah.
Or your house in Churchill, Canada, because of bear safety. And at any given time, a polar bear could work its way through, and if it does, then it will be darted and it will be humanely treated in a holding facility and then released back to where it's supposed to be. But if that bear is to wander up, then you, as a resident or even a tourist, you find any shelter you can, and that's a car with no doors locked, or a home or restaurant. Anything you see that has a door, that door must not be locked. Right. It's wow. Crazy. I know, but in a little hamlet that knows one another and is completely isolated from lower Manitoba, you're pretty safe leaving your door unlocked.
Right. I just would love to live in a world like that today.
I know.
It
Yeah.
sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
Well, so for the listeners who would like to do a natural habitat trip and come to me, the expeditionist,
Mhm.
to put it together, what do you think the first three things they should ask for would be? Like if you had never done anything with wildlife, and say
Mhm.
you're more into culture,
Mhm.
well, you have a European program now that you
We
guys are
do, and
doing.
all of our trips are going to have the cultural aspect. You're going to have the opportunity to meet First Nations people in Churchill. You're going to understand about their lifestyle up in the Arctic tundra by going to a museum and meeting some of them. After your time out on the tundra. But I would say, and I thought about this before I came in. We don't really work on demographics. We work on psychographics. And a psychographic for us is, you know, curious, you care about the planet, and you just want to learn, and you want to take away something that like you said at the very beginning, these are opportunities of just cherished moments that it's different than getting a new car or giving your child a watch or a bicycle or a set of skis. They're always going to love those. They're always going to remember it, but they're going to remember their first time with the polar bear much more than they're going to remember any commodity. So it's certainly, the commodity is a lifetime of memories,
I think,
fond memories.
yeah, I also love the multi-gen aspect. When I was a kid, my grandpa took me everywhere. He was
Yeah.
my best friend. I can't imagine not being with my grandpa on a
Yeah,
trip.
yeah.
He just was so much fun. He was like Walter Matthau and ridiculous and said the wrong things at the right time all day long.
It's great.
And yeah, and to travel with him was just an absolute blast. And I wish he was here now. And it was like, thank God he took us,
Yeah, yeah. I had the same experience growing up in Utah. I had a grandfather that loved to fill the station wagon with all the grandkids and head on up to the Jackson and of course Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And then also going down south to the national parks of Utah.
Yeah,
So
it's beautiful.
Great. Yeah.
Our West is spectacular.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I saw last year you took a really fun trip back up to Yellowstone.
I did.
I was really jealous.
Early season, talk about avoiding the crowds, and it's called an escape, a Yellowstone escape. So it was only a 5-day trip in and out of Bozeman, and we pretty much focused on the northern part and the Lamar Valley where the wolves are. Yeah. So it was wonderful.
Is that
and doing
still,
it in May? Yeah, we still have that, and that's kind of nice because people think I can do a lot of these national parks on my own, and that's true. But if you have a set piece of guided, professionally guided, and then take off and do your own thing, that's a great way to do it without investing in an 8-day program.
Yeah. Well, 5 days is easy to manage.
Yeah.
But also finding accommodations is really hard at the parks.
And we've got that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one thing that I also loved learning about was that you have private trips. So anything that's a group trip, you can make private.
You can. Yeah. We typically entertain it starting with 6 guests just because lower than 6, it's almost price prohibitive. We have done it where someone said, we're a group of 4 and we'll buy out the whole group. But in terms of working the math right and saying, well, we don't need 3 vehicles for 6 people. We only need 1. We don't need 2 expedition leaders. We only need 1. We're cutting the cost and making it to be, more not custom, which would be exorbitantly expensive, but just a little bit more than what it would be if they joined a group of strangers and have that departure for themselves.
When I do custom programs and I look at your programs, I think you have like 95% of what I would have done.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, for 40 years we've been perfecting, and we're not a company that looks to just add more trips laterally integrated. We're vertically integrated. So we take what we have and we perfect it all the time. If you look at our catalog, it will say not new trip, but it'll say new itinerary because we've added a new tweak to it. So
go back to Europe really quick for me. So I saw Scotland and I saw a few others. you just went to Croatia.
I did Croatia and Slovenia. And so what we were doing is we were staying in really nice, culturally hot spots, but not overcrowded. Some of the islands and some of the cities on the Adriatic shore, Adriatic coastline of Croatia. But then we were taking short drives, maybe as long as an hour or as short as 15 minutes, up into the national parks, 3 exquisite national parks in Croatia, but then coming back down to the island. So we had that, the best of both.
What are the 3 parks you went to?
I can't pronounce them. There's Plitvice, which is these lakes,
Waterfalls.
the waterfalls and the lakes. Plitvice, Plitvicia.
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. And then there's it's Placenko, Placenko, I think. And then the last one is the very northern part of Croatia that almost touches Slovenia. And that slips my mind right now, but it's a vast national park. And we just got up, kind of think of Sound of Music.
Right, yeah.
Where you're climbing up onto the top of this hill with a sweeping view of the Julian Alps to the north, which are in Slovenia, and then all of the mountain ridge lines in Croatia, and then down onto the coast, and we could see as far as
stunning.
You could see as far as Italy. You could see on a crystal clear day, you can see where Venice is.
How strenuous of a trip was that?
Not strenuous. We had a lady. She was fit. She was 78 years old, and she kept up with us. And then they were a multi-gen family. It was grandmother, the daughter and her husband, and then their child. And then the other couple, they were probably in their late 60s, early 70s. All of our trips are going to have a thermometer style rating from mild or easy, moderate, and difficult. Every trip will tell you straight up. So you know what you're getting into. Nothing's going to be left for surprise.
Wow.
And of course, polar bears, the fact that you're up there and you're basically enclosed. That's one of our easiest trips.
I'll bring my jump rope.
Yeah, we have had a 100-year-old traveler on that trip.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just can't believe I'm going to be up close with polar bears.
It's going to be
that
amazing,
just sounds so amazing to me.
Yeah.
I know next week we're going to be in Sia Cortez, and the gray whales just gave birth.
Awesome.
And so we're going to go spend a week down there, which
Perfect.
I'm really excited about. And then in February, I'm going to go back to Tanzania.
Excellent.
So yeah,
Okay.
I can't get it out of my system. I
Yeah.
have to go. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to working with you closer this year. And I really
Good.
appreciate you sharing with my new podcast all about natural
This is
habitat.
great.
Yeah.
I hope to do it again.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here
Ralph.
today.
Yeah.
Your support of all these years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
My pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned a lot. If adventure calls you, don't hesitate to reach out to the expeditionist. I can't wait to explore with you. Your adventure awaits.